Temple Bound is going to Africa, and we want you to come with us. November 2nd through the 9th, we have been asked to go to Kenya to help a local group of members of the church go to the temple for the first time. And not only are we looking to help them get to the temple, but we're helping raise money for medical supplies, food, and even some shelter for a local orphanage. So if you'd like to join us, here's how you can do that. Number one, follow us on social media. If you'd like to be a part of it remotely, you can check us out on a daily basis. We're doing podcast episodes while we're over there. Secondly, you can donate. We're going to have a GoFundMe link in the show notes of these episodes over the next 2 months. Or you can literally come with us. We have a limited number of seats, and we'd love for you to come join us in this effort of sharing this great good with members of the church overseas. So if you'd like to learn more, please reach out, and we'd love to have you. Welcome back to Temple Bound. You know, it can be challenging as a parent to inspire our kids to want to go to the temple. Sometimes it's one of those things that as we are trying to figure out how to develop that passion, it makes it hard for us to do that with our kids. Well, today's special guest is Jacki Hanks. She's going to share with you an unbelievable story of how a family, a very normal family that had a very normal to average experience of going to the temples, started a game that snowballed into their family doing 15,000 ordinances in 1 year. It's an unbelievably cool story because it never started with that kind of focus, but over time, she's going to share how the spirit of Elijah entered her home and did the unbelievable for her and her kids. They started catching fire, and then the community joined in, and before you knew it, they were achieving this wonderful goal. But more importantly, who they became in the journey is what I can't wait for you to hear and inspire you to find the game, as we're going to talk about. Finding the game with our kids that they can co-create to make temple worship a part of our family culture. I can't wait for you to hear the episode. Enjoy the show. Well, Jacki, I am so grateful that you're here with us on Temple Bound. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a fun one because your family did something that was pretty amazing. I was trying to get my cousin Jennifer to be on the show, and she just looked at me very coldly and said, there's no way I'll ever do that. And you should meet Jacki. Like it was like one breath. And I
I'll
said,
have to thank her for that.
Well, and I can't thank you enough because I get it. You know, this isn't something that everyone wants to do, but I think your story is so powerful in how this love for the temple has really impacted your family. And the thing that we're going to talk about today was this 1 year, a few years ago, where the spirit of Elijah combined with some real competitive spirits in your family resulted in this outpouring of experiences within your home. So why don't you set the stage a little bit about the challenge that occurred? Sorry, I keep calling it a challenge, but this thing that happened where you ended up seeing your family did 15,000 ordinances in 1 year. So how did that even begin for you?
Well, it started mainly when COVID shut down the temples, and then I felt like I was a loser because I didn't really take my opportunities to go to the temple like I probably should have.
Oh, beforehand. So like before COVID hit, you're like, oh, wow, now that it's gone, I really could have gone more.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And I hope it opens again because this is really incredible. And so I started working in the temple and loved it, but didn't participate in the ordinances. And so then when it opened back up, I was like, all right, game on. We've got to get our work done. There's so much work to be done and make up for lost time. So we just started doing it. Anytime we could find an appointment, we just went, and we took my whole big van, as many people that could fit in. We would just load it up. Sometimes, unseatbelted, but as many as we could fit into the vehicle that we could to be able to make it to the temple appointments. And then it started out with one night. My sister had called and was like, hey, there's 3 spots. Can your kids come? And I was like, absolutely.
So this was just like a normal temple invitation.
Yeah.
You already had this desire to go. And so this opened up and you're like, yeah, let's go. And
Yeah. No problem. I've got it. There's an appointment. Yeah, let's fill those spots. Let's get this temple of work going. And so we went in and to do it. That night, we started looking up some names, and we found them, and we found more. And I was like, oh, my goodness, we can do more appointments. Let's see if we can find some. And I just happened to find an appointment at the Gilbert Temple that morning. And so I was like, guys, what do you think? And the kids were like, yeah, let's do it. And so we got up that morning really early. I think our appointment was the 6 o'clock one, which is really early for our family. And so We got up early. We went to head to the temple, and I ended up having a flat tire. I got a notification that my tire was going flat, and I was like,
Here we go. Yeah.
we can't do this and make it to my sister's appointment because she'd be mad at me if I was late to it. And so I was like, oh, okay, guys, we can't do it. So I called Ty. I was like, hun, our tire's flat. We're not going to be able to make the appointment.
And now, for context, your husband is he a doctor?
Yeah, he's a doctor.
Okay, so he's getting ready to go to work.
Yeah.
And so you get this flat tire. Again, you're already started working at the temple, so this passion was starting to accrue after COVID. And then this was a moment that really pivoted things for you because you started finding names, and then this flat tire. Isn't it interesting, by the way,
yeah.
how there's always something that prevents us from wanting to go? Yeah,
I'll tell you
absolutely.
Yeah, he tried to get in the way. So we get home, and I was just super deflated, but I was like, at least we still get to go to the temple. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
So then we head to go walk inside. I'm like, guys, it's okay.
Well, what happened with the flat tire?
Well, so I get home. My husband throws me his keys to his car, and he's like, I'll figure out my patience.
Oh, I see.
Like, you just get to the temple. Satan's not going to win today.
So he was late to work as a doctor because he knew how important it was for your family.
Yeah. He's like,
to have
I'll
this
figure it
temple
out.
Experience. Wow, that's pretty powerful.
So, yeah, so we took his car, and then we felt energized. We were all powered. We're like, yes, we're going to win. Satan's not winning today. Let's go. And so we went to the temple, and it was just super powerful because, we won. We got to the temple. And so we got there, and it was amazing. And then afterwards, we're like sitting at the Mesa Temple. We got there on time. My sister told me a time, and I was there on time a little bit early because I didn't want to be late.
But she
and I was
told you
like,
it earlier.
where are you at? And she's like, I thought you'd be late. So I said to the temple early, and I was like,
I have a sister like that. Sarah, I love you. Anyway, keep going.
So I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe we can just sit and find some names. And my son's like, hey, what if I were to tell you that there's a temple appointment over in Phoenix? And I'm like, what? And I'm like, yeah, let's go. What do you guys think? And they're like, yeah, let's go. And we're like, okay, we'll tell Satan we're going to win today. And so we set up that appointment, and we then went to take a picture because I started doing pictures every time we'd go to the temple. We'd do a selfie.
Oh, yeah.
It was
My
my
wife
way
does
to
that.
kind of
Yeah.
document
Sure.
my life, and because then I'm not a great journaler, but I can take a selfie. And so we just did our selfie, and I was telling my sister, I'm like, yeah, listen to my morning. This is what happened. Yeah, I'm not only here, but I also had this. And my sister's like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
And so then fast forward, I said, oh, and I have an appointment in Phoenix. I don't know if your son wants to join us, but there's a spot if you want.
So how did that Phoenix appointment show up? First of all, let me backtrack a little bit. So was that experience extra special, or I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm imagining it was extra special because of the sacrifice of the flat tire and all the extra effort? Because I would have given up.
Yeah.
I would have been like, hey, that counts. In your case, it was like your husband's like, nope, I'm not going to work late. And then you work there. So I'm guessing that you were blessed and had a different level of experience being there that day.
Yeah, I don't like to lose. And I felt like I was going to lose that morning. And then when my husband threw me the keys and he's like, don't let Satan win. I'm like, yeah, he's not winning. I'm not going to win. It's like, psh, no.
Let's go.
Let's go. And so we went to the temple. We went to do the baptisms in Gilbert. And we were like, that was amazing. And our hair is already wet. Like, let's just keep going.
So did you schedule the Phoenix Temple appointments after that?
Yeah, so while we were in line, or while we were in our car waiting for the Mesa Temple appointment,
Because
my
you were
sister,
early.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah. So then at that point we were talking about how we won, and my son was like, "Hey, what if I were to tell you that this temple appointment in Phoenix opened up?" And I was like, "Let's go." So we went to the Phoenix Temple appointment, and because of our experience that morning, my sister encouraged her son to come. He's like, you should come.
Interesting.
And so then he came with us, and then on the way back, there was an appointment to go to the Gilbert Temple. And I was like, I know that you think we're crazy, Josh, but if you want to come with us, we're also going to go to the Gilbert Temple again.
Why? So let me ask you, first of all, your kids are homeschooled, so you had some flexibility here, which is why this was a little bit possible. But what was it after? So I get why you went to the Phoenix Temple. You're trying to get to a temple. Things aren't looking good because of the car. So your son's looking at appointments, so you schedule it. But then you're like, hey, let's just keep it. So what inspired this third temple? Like
The fourth experience of the temple?
Fourth, yes.
Yeah.
What was it that where you're like, no, I want to keep going?
We were just going to go back to where it started, of yeah, Satan, not only did you not win, but you really didn't win because we hit them multiple times. And then we also repeated back the one you tried to kick us out of that morning.
Interesting. And what's really powerful to me is that your kids are like driving some of this.
Yeah. You know what? I have incredible kids. I want to be them when I grow up.
That's
Seriously.
amazing.
They take after their dad.
They're incredible. I'm sure there's a lot of Jacki in there. But it's so cool to think about how like this one setback was an opportunity that turned into, we had a guest named Dennis Deaton who was on the show, and he has this great book, Look Unto Christ in Every Thought. And in it, he talks about this concept of like when the adversary gets in our head or puts a roadblock up, that's an opportunity for us to go above and beyond the way that your family did. And what that does is it really invokes blessings and puts that negative influence at bay. So that competitive nature that you have really served you, and are your boys also competitive in that way?
Slightly, tremendously.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so that happened. So you go through that, and so you ended up going to 4 temples that day? 3?
Yeah, so we went to 4. We went to Gilbert twice, Mesa, and Phoenix.
What time were you guys done? When that was
we were done about 5:30. Don't worry, we got food along the way. We make it fun. After every temple trip, you get to go get food. There's always a treat involved.
Yeah, so this is a powerful thing. Your family goes through that, and I know you were telling me before we hit record that this was a pivotal moment for your family. There was something about that day that really shifted for you guys. You guys had been growing little by little, precept upon precept, around this passion of going to the temple, but something really like unlocked for you guys that day. What was that?
I think it was just winning against Satan.
Yeah.
Because he tried. Why was he trying? Because it's so amazing. The temple's amazing.
That's wonderful. And you guys had, I'm guessing, some really spiritual experiences just going through that journey that day.
Yeah. It was incredible. I mean, to spend that much time in the house of God is the coolest, especially with your kids.
Yeah.
Where they could do other things, right?
And and it's very normal for them to not want to go to the temple in that way. So it's such a miracle that, you have such great kids for sure, and that they were wanting to keep going and having that experience. I think that's truly that feeling of Elijah that starts to turn our hearts and gets us excited. And what's cool about your story, Jacki, is that excitement, that wasn't the end. Like that could have been our little show, and thank you for tuning in. But what really happened on the back end of that was that a fire was kindled that day that turned into this experience of you guys doing 15,000 names. So walk the audience through a little bit of how it went from this amazing transformative day in your family into this seemingly impossible task of doing that many ordinances in a year.
Yeah, so originally it was hard for us to find names. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just like figuring it out, and we didn't know what we were doing.
Sure.
And so my sister's son was like, "Oh, let me show you how to find your descendants. This is how I find them."
In Family Tree, I guess? Or?
Yeah, so in Family Tree, I'll show you how after. It's incredible. And you just go and you find it, and you click the button, descendants, and then it's ancestors that are aunts, cousins, distant cousins.
Is it descendants with tasks? Is that the thing?
No, that's different one.
Okay.
I'll have to look at that.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but it's finding your descendants through that ... in the corner of your phone.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So anyway, you click on that, and it helps you find the green temples that we could never find. And then it became the game. And so we started finding the game, and my kids.
Finding the game. What a powerful concept, Jacki, to think about how we can approach temple worship with our kids. Finding the game. And that's really neat because it started on an app, which they're all super geared for because they're raised on that stuff.
They're incredible.
And so how did they get into the app? How did they start getting into that? Because I think a lot of parents would be like, how did you get them interested in the app?
So my nephew showed them how to find the temples, the green temples. But then it started to be what they would do. I would catch them doing temple work, and because then we could take our names to the temple. And then it started to be where we could see the ordinances completed button and seeing how it was growing. I was like, oh my gosh, guys, look at how many ordinances we've got completed. This is amazing.
Because it shows the total ordinances completed.
Yeah.
And so that metric was a little bit of a driver for a competitive family.
Well, mainly their mom, but yeah, their dad isn't as quite competitive. Bless his heart. I love him.
Bless his heart. Yeah, but that number, but it's still very validating to see completion of work. And so they were into the app. They started seeing the completed ordinances. One thing that we talked about before we hit record as well is that your family goes back. You have relatives in the Doctrine and Covenants. So there wasn't a lot of like low-hanging fruit in the Green Temple, so that when they started seeing the descendants, it opened up all these doors for you guys. So it sounds like you guys started getting really into just finding people who needed ordinances, and that started the next level of this experience for you, is that you started finding people and reserving names, I guess?
Yeah, so we started seeing that, oh my goodness, our work isn't done, and it should be done because, ancestors, my husband's grandfathers, Heber C. Kimball, and, it's incredible. And why do we not have our work done? And, it's just crazy to see that you can find these green temples that work to not be done after looking for so long and not finding them. And so then it started being that to seeing it growing. And then my husband was like, we should do a challenge. How about, we'll just go hit another temple, whatever temple you want in America. Let's find a temple, and, whoever has the number by the end of May, the highest will get to pick which temple they go to. And so then we were like, okay, girls versus boys. And then my daughter, bless her heart, she's a little like her mom. She's like, well, we have it in the bag. Let's just pick our temple now.
You and I are killers. Let's go destroy the boys. And for just the audience perspective, so at the time you had 2 kids on a mission. And so you have 5 children. And so you have 2 boys at home and a daughter. And you two
2 daughters and a boy at home.
Oh, I got it reversed. So 2 daughters and a boy. But one of them's super competitive, and you guys were just going to okay. So you decided, well, that's going to be unequally weighted.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I'll take the boys, I'll take Dad, and I'll take Brig, and we'll destroy you girls. And so, my daughter, she's like her mom, and she's highly competitive, and she's like, game on. So we went and got these little boxes at the dollar store, and we printed names, and she had her box, I had my box. And so my son and my husband were finding names and putting them in our box, so we knew we were ready to go if we had a moment to hop in the temple, if there was an appointment. We were not going to let our names hold us back. So like our temple names we found was thick. It was glorious.
Wow.
And so we were always ready in case someone had an appointment, and we were ready to go. So then my kids would fill the car and we'd go do it. And they would encourage their friends to come so that then they could
get their numbers up.
Yeah.
I think that I want to pause for a second and just highlight what's beautiful about what your family did is that it understood your particular family culture and how it was the temple worship and attendance was tied into that in a cool way. You said it just a few minutes ago, you found the game. So finding the game, your husband clearly saw that and knew how to pour a little gasoline on that and to say, let's find a temple, let's do teams. And this may not work for every family. That exact concept may not be what would work for other people. And other people who aren't competitive, if they're not listening to what we're talking about here, might even feel disconnected from it because they're not competitive. The point of the story is how beautifully you guys were committed to finding, your family in the temple in the way that serves your family. And I just wonder, like for the Humphreys, my family, what does that game look like for us? What does it look like for the Mellows, who is the reason we're sitting here talking? Like all the game is going to be different for everyone else. In your case, you're demonstrating this beautiful example of what's possible when we are able to combine a love for the Savior in the temple with our families, because that's what the temples are all about families. And so you get these names, and so they're bringing their friends. They're starting to like collaborate and bring their friends in. And you said this earlier, it started as a competition. So as it started to evolve, what was it like as you guys started going more and more for your family?
It then became, if you didn't go, you could feel the loss.
Interesting.
You could feel that you didn't feel the Spirit. And you would almost get on a spiritual high because that became your normal spirit you had with you. And then when you didn't go so frequently, you could tell. And I would have my son be like, hey, I missed the appointment this morning. I had to work. Can you come hit the temple with me tonight? After he had come with me that morning, I'm like, absolutely, because he wanted to get the Spirit back while he was going to work.
For people who are new to the temple or haven't gone in a while, or people who just don't maybe not share that experience yet, I just want to remind what's beautiful about what you said is something that President Nelson said. It was like, if we don't have a feeling to go to the temple, to go more, not less. And I think that was your son just demonstrated why.
Yeah.
When you go consistently And more frequently, there is an objective, observable experience that is missing when it's not there. And so how wonderful was that for you as a mom to see that with your kids?
It was incredible. So I like to relate it because my friends all thought this is abnormal for our family. I was not the normal person who would just dive in and not be busy and have plenty of time to just devote everything. But when it started happening and you could see the transformation in ourselves and in our family, there became less agitation, less frustration. Instead of finding them playing games or doing things that were like, come on, come jump in. Instead, they were the ones saying, hey, let's jump in. And then our whole family, our whole household just kind of shifted.
You know, it's interesting. I have a professional podcast, and I was talking to members of the church who own a business, and we were talking about company culture. And I said, when do you know you have a strong company culture? And the answer was when the employees want to create their own connecting experience, whether it's like a after work party or like a pickleball thing. And so you just highlighted that again, is that when the spirit of Elijah is present in our home and the spirit of our Lord is there, it's magnetic, and it draws them to each other, to where I saw what you said was them motivatedly wanting to be a part of or even organize these experiences that weren't isolation based, like video games so you saw that shift in your home. How wonderful.
It was incredible. And so while we would be watching a movie, I'd be looking at their phone, and then my daughter, who's highly competitive, would be looking names, and I'm like, oh, I got to look up my names. And so it then became what we did, and it became the fun part of our days. And there's an app called Get Involved.
Oh.
Have you played on that game?
Never seen it.
It's not really a game, but I call it a game. It's basically indexing that's easy. I'll show you when we get done.
Get Involved. The app is called Get Involved.
Yeah, it's a church app. It's incredible.
So just so you know, I've never talked to someone who's been excited about indexing until today. This has been a very special. So tell me how this app has how you've had. This is amazing. I want to get excited about it. It's not.
Want me to show you? I will show you. It is incredible. I actually show everyone whenever I go to like lunches, like, have you done the Get Involved app? So this Get Involved app is just this app.
Here, I'm going to put it on camera so that people can see. Is it that little blue tree that looks like? That looks just like the family tree app.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's blue.
Yep. So you just click on that, and then now you can verify places, because there were so many quick name reviews that now you can verify places.
And you're logged into your account, so it's all connected to your people.
Yeah. Well, no. So it's indexing. Have you ever done indexing?
I honestly don't. I have a podcast called Tip About. I don't really understand what indexing is.
It's part of it. It's the whole package.
Okay.
It's so awesome. And so what I loved about this is the new app version is this button right here called contributions.
It looks so simple.
It really is kind of amazing. So you can see this is this year, starting in May through October. You can tell when I was on a trip and I sat in the car. We were having a competition to see who could get to the highest number.
She's showing, for those of you who can't see, who are listening to this, is that she has the number. It tracks the number of things that she's indexed. And in August, there's 1,294. So they were sitting in a car just like, so it's kind of like this great way. You found the game in something called indexing.
Yeah. So what I love about indexing is you can do it while you're in line, and you hit get started, and then it review names, and then it will pull up all the different indexing that you could do. So you no longer have to sit in front of your computer and wait until you pull it up. And this is a bad example because they've now advanced me to the harder ones to do because I've done so many, and so some of them are hard. So it populates the words of what it thinks it is, because AI is amazing.
Okay, so that actually is way better than the little indexing I've tried before.
It's incredible.
It actually facilitates it to be super easy.
Yeah, and then you can edit it. You can say you're unsure. You can match it. So Farmington, yes, we'll hit match. And then, okay, let's say I'm in line and it's time for me to go and I did one name. That's okay. I'm going to hit done. And then it tells me, congratulations.
Oh my
Thank
goodness.
you.
It's just like a video game.
Yeah, it tells me thank
there's a
you.
little trophy that just popped up.
Yeah.
And when she hit this, and you touched the phone like 3 times,
Yeah.
and you just indexed a name.
And it still tells me thank you. So what I loved about this app is this contribution button. Although it tells me all of my ordinances that I've done and found and
right.
collected, it goes to this button called Temple. So this one says 142. Because of my indexing, it's then quantified my time. And because of my indexing, it's let these number 142, did I say? I'm blind. Yeah, 142 people were able to be found to be able to get their temple work done. And 746 names were able to be connected for people to family names in 24 countries.
So that's the beauty of this app, is that it shows you all the metrics. I think there's something about, I think it was President Monson, what gets measures improves, right?
Yeah.
So this app helps you measure your efforts, and it makes the effort low, but it also gamifies it. You know, in other contexts, not in religious contexts, gamification is one of the most powerful ways to engage people and be passionate about it. There was a YouTuber named Mark Rober, who's a member of the church. Have you heard of him? Mm-hmm. He was giving a talk once that reminded me of the power of gamification. He says he on a screen, he showed him a puzzle, and there was 4 buttons, and he said, you know, this is a pattern recognition game, and you have to hit in this random order almost. You have to determine the random order. It will, you know, and it looked horrible. And then he overlaid it with what it was, and it was Super Mario Brothers, the video game. And he goes, now when you gamify it, that same puzzle becomes intensely more engaging. And that's what I find technology is doing here. And what we're really kind of talking about from your family's experience is this thing called gamification. So you started indexing on your phone, your kids are indexing, you're tracking it all, you're measuring it, you have rewards, but then it evolved into this cultural thing in your family where you just were so passionate about it. So how did it go from that to hitting 10,000? Was that the marker?
So no. So in May, it was, I think May 15th is our deadline that we said, okay, by May 15th, because that's when school was going to be done with my kids' school. We're like, okay, when you're done with school, you're done with this, and we'll see where we're at. And we were at about 10,000 names. And
so you didn't set that as an initial marker. You were just going and
it was just however many we could get by that May 15th point. And because it tracks also on your find a name, your tree.
Yes.
It also tells you how many ordinances you've got completed. And so, and it stops at 3,000, which they should fix that for someone who's highly competitive.
Yeah, it's really, you can tell they never thought someone's going to go beyond the 3,000. So let's not worry about it. They just currently don't know Jacki.
Well, yeah. So we just tallied up our 3. So once I hit my 3,000, it was actually, we had gone back to Nauvoo again during that summer period later, and we had realized that it tops out. So I probably did beat my daughter. Olivia, I won. But it tops out at 3,000. And so we were finding them on everyone's. And so in May, we added them up. My daughter, she technically, unofficially, she did win. So we let her win. She wanted to go to the temple in California. We let her. It's fine.
So any temple in the United States, and she picks California.
Yeah, because she wanted to go to the San Diego temple.
That's pretty awesome.
It's pretty beautiful. And so we went there, and it was amazing. They beat me by I think it was 50 or 60. It wasn't by a lot, but it was okay, so now we're almost to 10,000 and it's May. What do we have now between now and December? Let's just hit 15,000. We've already hit this number. Why don't we just carry it all the way? Let's just do 15. There's no way we can keep going at that pace of going to, 3 to 5 temples a day does not work for longevity, but for that little challenge, it did.
Yeah.
And it kind of gave you a reboot, right? Kind of in a gaming thing, it kind of reboots your system and priorities.
And you're in a situation with homeschooling your kids where you were playing to your strengths with your flexibility of time in the stages of life your kids were in. And the fact, I think the coolest thing is that, we should always act when we have motivation, right? If the motivation's fleeting.
Yeah.
So when our kids' motivation is aligned with something that brings them closer to Christ, I love that you guys went all in. And it looks like this thing that is so like insurmountable because it really isn't sustainable long term, because we don't usually have those kind of periods of time where those stars align. So that was powerful that you guys like poured gasoline on that fire. And so you're like, okay, we can't do 10,000, but let's do 5,000. So what was that like, hitting that last 5,000 for you guys?
So it was stressful because toward the end, it was December, and everyone knows December is just so crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, my husband decided that we were going to help throw Bethlehem for my ward party in my backyard. And I was like, oh, we are super close to our 15,000. I just don't know that we're going to make it. And I was just like, oh, I hope we can do it. And my sister, she was over and she was looking at my Bethlehem in my backyard. When I say Bethlehem, we had scaffolding. We like built a town.
All out.
We went all out like we did in the temple challenge. But my sister was over there and she was talking to me and she's like, wait, you can't give up. I've been following you. Like, you can't. Like, you have to. Yeah. I'll help take some of your names. And so she started sending them to her kids, and some of her kids were doing them. And so during the week of Bethlehem final setup, I was just so grateful that they were also helping us and sending us their selfie pictures with their names completed, that I thought it was so sweet that they took their December month to fulfill my wish. And so I was like, all right, we're going to get back into it. And so we finished them. We didn't finish 15. We finished 15,273.
Yay.
But it was more than just finishing ordinances. It was finishing people that are on our family tree that was special.
Right. I think, we talk about the numbers of things. Numbers are just measurements. It's, people don't play in the Super Bowl because they care about the number. The number is just a representation of the effort. And I think the fact that you guys had that number as a way to gamify and motivate, but at the end of the day, the greater impact was the other side of the veil, this side of the veil, all those things.
Yeah, and it was so amazing gathering the kids to come join us. At first, it was to boost our numbers and to, kind of make it fun so that the kids had their friends to come with us.
Yes.
But then it started to be where their friends were like, hey, do you have any appointments this week? We want to come. And then it became kind of the thing that we all did. Thing. Yeah. And it connected us. We invited cousins and aunts and uncles. And, there was special tender moments that you just can't say just because they're just so tender. Yeah. And just special moments in the temple that you just are so grateful for, that you just know you're not alone.
Yeah. Yes. And, one of the many reasons I'm grateful that you're doing this show is that your family will have this recorded, and we'll have this to reflect on. And, I just think these spiritual experiences, your kids will never not have those memories. They will always have that time that you guys went big and went all in, and they got to experience the Spirit at that level. And no one can ever take that away from them. No one can, Satan, nobody. They will never forget those tender moments that will be with them for the rest of their existence. So how cool is that?
It was pretty amazing. So during that period of time following it, we ended up going to Utah and finishing a challenge because they were doing the traveling tabernacle up in Utah. Have you been to that one?
No.
Oh, goodness. It's so cool. It's so cool. I was trying to go to it prior to COVID and it shut down. But so we went to that, and because you had to have an appointment to go into the temple still at that point. And so I had my sister, another sister, help me. Okay, we're going to go to Utah to go to the traveling tabernacle. But while we're there, let's hit all the temples.
Interesting.
So that we can hit all the temples that are open while we're there. And I don't know how that works to make the appointments match with while we're driving up.
Yeah.
And so she is a magical miracle. We said a prayer and it worked. And so we hit all the way from Gilbert, Mesa, Vegas, all the way up to Cedar City, all the temples that were open. Every single temple were open. And sometimes we could just do 2 people being baptized. Sometimes all of us got to be baptized, but we got to go to all the temples. And it was incredible to just know that it doesn't matter which temple you go to, it's still the same feeling.
Yes.
It's still the same spirit. And the familiarity of the spirit became the constant for my kids. And it didn't matter which temple they were in, they were comfortable and they felt peace. And they wanted to keep going to all the temples just to see how different they were, but to see how similar they were.
There is something
super
really
cool.
neat about seeing different temples. You know, we started a tradition in our family when we traveled that if we're near a temple, we want to go to that temple. And it really wasn't initially received well. And to be honest, I was like, why did I decide that we're doing this on a vacation day? And but that was years ago, and now we do it. And I wish I could say that when I say, hey guys, we're going to the temple when we go to California, or we were at the Tokyo temple just about a year ago, that was different. I think the more exotic the location, the family tends to get more excited about temples because it is very different.
Yeah.
In terms of like the language and the architecture always matches the culture, so it's very different when it's outside the United States. But once you're in, it's the same. But, you know, when we were at California Beach a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, we're going to the Newport Temple. Yeah, I mean, it's not like every time everyone's like excited, but, and I said this at driving home from the temple just a few weeks ago. I'm like, but aren't you glad we went? And everyone, I pointed out, like, look how we're all joking and laughing and feeling connected like we didn't feel this morning, or we haven't felt in a long time. And my family recognized that and said, yeah, it's palpable. And that's the minimum, you know? So I think what's really inspiring in this, again, is to help making temple worship part of our our family's culture and traditions.
Yeah.
And isn't it all about family anyway?
It is. It's so cool. We did it when we went to California. On our last few trips we've gone, we've always hit the temple too, because we started making it our everything. Like wherever we go, we take our temple. Which temple are we going to hit? Multiple temples? How many times? Where can we fit it in? And we had gone to Disneyland one day and went to the Newport Temple the next, and the LA Temple the next, and then whatever. I think we went to Redlands next. And it was interesting because even though as fun as Disneyland can be, and those churros and that raspberry macaron, I mean, it is pretty incredible.
No, that's a thing. That raspberry macaron's a thing.
It really is a thing. But the longevity of the temple was just so much better. I mean, I do love Disneyland, but that temple experience is just incredible to spend there with your babies. It's why wouldn't you want to do that?
Absolutely.
After doing it so much.
All right. So you go through this amazing experience, you accomplish it. Did you celebrate it with the family? Like when you hit that number at 15,000, was there any sort of ceremony or dinner or like, I don't know what you do to celebrate something like that, but like, what did you guys do?
We just went to the temples. I think that's what we did. We went to Utah. I think that's what we did for our celebration.
That was the reward, was to go on a unique trip.
Like, hey, let's go celebrate and go hit another one up in Utah. And we went all the way up to Logan, Utah, from just coming way down just to go to the temple in Logan. It was incredible.
Fun.
It's incredible.
Now, this was 2022 or 2023?
So it was just before my son went on his mission. So in 2022, we started it. And then 2023, we did the temple up in Utah. Okay. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. So since that time frame, how has that experience influenced your kids' temple worship, or how have you seen that?
Yeah. So my son, that at the time was being our baptizer. So we always had my kids call it, we don't have to have a random baptizer. It's their favorite thing to know who's going to be baptizing them. So definite perk to have your own personal baptizer. And so it was our favorite. He then became an elder, so he was preparing to go on his mission. So then he also came with being a baptizer and a confirmer. So that was a double, like we knew exactly who it was going to be for my girl's sake, to him being able to go on his mission. And while he was on his mission, he was teaching people how to do indexing and how to do family search. And his favorite moment was when he got to take the family that he baptized to go do a temple for their family. And so it was incredible because it became the why, because that's why we're here, right? Yeah. To bring both sides of the veil and to gather Israel.
Wow. Jacki, I can't thank you enough. I don't want this to end, actually, but I feel like that's such a powerful point. Let me ask you a couple more questions because I just don't want to let you go yet. Favorite temple?
Oh, do you really have a favorite temple? I mean, they're just so
I do. I sure do. Well, yeah, if you had to pick like a top 3.
Well, so Mesa Temple, just because of the history of it,
Sure.
my family.
You're like a millionth generation
Yeah.
member, and that's
I'm
like
as Arizona desert rat as they come, and
Yeah.
it's just there's so much history for our family. My grandpa helped pour the concrete there in the Mesa Temple. He drove down from
Wow.
Pine to do the concrete at the Mesa Temple, and my grandparents had a house down the street from it. So for us, the Mesa Temple's super history, but the Gilbert Temple, we were opening clinics in Vegas, and so every time we come back, we'd see the progress of the Gilbert Temple being built. So the Gilbert Temple's kind of my kids, like their growing up years of watching the temple being built. And, we watched the statue of Moroni being put on the temple top, and it was just super intense and so special and super hot that day, but still so memorable. And so, I love those 2 temples, but I also really love the Payson, Utah temple is incredible because it's similar to my Gilbert temple.
interesting.
And I really love the St. George temple because that was the first temple dedicated. But how do you pick? I really loved the Nauvoo temple because that was incredible too.
Yeah, and that's a different story for a different podcast, because we were talking before we hit record about how that really kicked everything off for you, and what a special journey that is. And I think it's just really good for the audience to know that like this took time for you. This wasn't like you were going to the temple aggressively from being a little girl. It was this thing that came and went, and then finally things opened up for you, and then as you caught the Spirit, your whole family caught fire, and then the community. And now we're there. So just remember, audience members, that as you're listening to this, is that wherever we are in that journey, it's okay. This is just an example of what can happen, and how our families can be blessed for it. I think one of the cool things that I've learned from today's discussion too, Jackie, is the idea of thinking big. The temple itself is all about us thinking bigger, eternally, celestially. Think celestial. That's literally what we do in the temple. And so, there's all these books coming out. Benjamin Hardy is a member of the church who wrote a book called The Science of Scaling. It's all business. But the idea from research is that in order to grow a company to be of significance, you don't grow linearly. It's actually easier to grow exponentially by setting a target that's so big that it seems impossible to hit. So it forces us to change how we operate and how we function. And so the same could be true about our goals when it comes to becoming like our Heavenly Father. I think there's a real inspiration here of like, what could my family do as a game? As long as they're bought in, I think that's the key thing here. Your kids were bought in. I think without that, this thing wouldn't have worked. So as long as they're helping co-create and they're excited and we can find a way to make it happen, maybe the big goal is like once a month, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's the direction and the progression.
I know there's a lot of people who love and hate the appointments, but you never miss a doctor's appointment, right?
Yeah,
or a dentist appointment.
totally.
And so I see the theory behind it. But I found that when my kids were helping set the appointments, then they helped attend the appointments. And where if I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do, then it became my thing where I was like, okay, guys, see who can find appointment. Because at that point, you could only do one appointment per login.
Yeah.
And so I'd be like, okay, I'm booked. What's your appointments? And so we got a desk calendar, and they were the ones filling them in. And so it became them. So figuring out what works for your family, but setting the appointments to make sure you don't miss them.
And I love that. President Nelson even says to schedule a regular appointment, whatever that is for us, but keep it. Yeah. Schedule the appointment and keep it. All right. Well, Jackie, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been wonderful. As always, at the end of the episode, I'd like to turn the time over to you. This is one part, inspiring members across the world in real time, but it's another part, a legacy piece for your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids. What would you want them to know about the temple?
It is my solace. It's my joy. I love the temple. I didn't take advantage of it like I should have my whole life. But I'm super thankful that I changed because it is my joy. And that's where I find my Savior.
Thank you for sharing your joy with all of us today, Jackie. Thanks so much for being with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We want to hear from you. What additional show ideas would you like to hear about? What questions do you have in your heart that we can help answer? Please leave those in the show notes of today's episode or over on Instagram. Thank you for your cooperation in helping make this show the best it can be. Until next time.